In the deadly silence of the Wild West, a cowboy discovers an Apache woman left as prey for wolves. But what happens next will leave you speechless. Will they survive the night or become part of the wilderness? Watch till the end to find out, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and support for more powerful stories. The vast wilderness of the 1800s American frontier stretched endlessly beneath a fading sky, painted in shades of orange and deep purple. A lone cowboy rode slowly through the silent valley, his horse's hooves the only sound breaking the stillness. The air felt heavy, almost warning him that something wasn't right. He adjusted his hat, scanning the horizon with experienced eyes, used to danger but never careless. Nights in this land were unforgiving, and even the bravest men knew when to turn back. Yet, something in the wind felt different, as if the land itself was trying to speak to him. As he continued forward, a strange sound reached his ears, faint, distant, and filled with desperation. At first, he thought it might be the cry of an injured animal, something common in these wild lands. But as the sound came again, clearer this time, he realized it was human. His grip tightened on the reins. He slowed his horse, listening carefully, trying to trace the direction. The wind carried the cry unevenly, making it hard to follow, but his instincts pushed him forward. Whatever it was, it needed help, and out here help rarely came twice. The cowboy guided his horse up a slight ridge, his eyes searching every shadow and movement. Light was fading fast, and darkness would soon take over the land completely. Then suddenly he saw it, a figure in the distance. At first, it looked like nothing more than a shape against the earth, but as he rode closer, the reality became horrifyingly clear. An Apache woman was tied tightly to a wooden post, her body slumped, her clothes torn by struggle and time. She barely moved, yet her presence was undeniable, a silent cry against the cruelty she had faced. He stopped his horse a few steps away, his heart pounding as he took in the scene. This was no accident, this was deliberate. He had heard of such brutal tactics, leaving someone as bait to draw predators. It was a slow and merciless fate. The ground around her showed signs of disturbance, and the air carried a scent that made his instincts scream danger. He looked around carefully, scanning for movement, knowing that something or someone might still be watching from the shadows. The silence was no longer peaceful. It was tense and threatening. For a brief moment, he hesitated. This wasn't his fight. Out here, survival often meant minding your own business, avoiding trouble that could swallow you whole. Helping her meant risk, real, deadly risk. He could already hear distant howls, beginning to echo across the valley, low and growing. Stronger with each passing second, the wolves were coming. If he stayed, he could become part of the same trap. His mind told him to leave, to ride away while he still could. But then he looked at her again. Despite her weakened state, her eyes were open, filled not with fear alone, but with a fierce will to live. There was strength there, refusing to be extinguished. That look stayed with him, cutting through his hesitation like a blade. He had seen many things on the frontier, loss, cruelty, survival, but something about this moment felt different. Leaving her behind would not just be walking away from danger, it would be walking away from his own humanity. The howls grew louder now, closer, echoing from multiple directions. The predators had caught the scent, and time was running out. The cowboy made his decision. Without another second to waste, he swung himself off the saddle and landed firmly on the ground. His movements were quick but controlled, every sense alert. He approached her cautiously, his eyes still scanning the surroundings. One hand reached for the knife at his belt, gripping it tightly as he stepped closer to the post where she was bound. Up close, he could see the extent of her condition. The ropes had cut into her wrists and her breathing was shallow, uneven, yet she was still conscious, still holding on. He didn't speak. Words were useless in a moment like this. Instead, he knelt beside her and began cutting through the ropes. his knife slicing quickly but carefully. Each second felt heavier than the last, as if the darkness itself was closing in around them. The distant shapes of movement in the hills hinted that they were no longer alone. The final strand of rope gave way, and her body shifted slightly, freed at last from the post that had held her prisoner. But freedom did not mean safety. Not yet. The cowboy quickly steadied her, glancing over his shoulder as the night fully settled in. The howls were now unmistakably near, sending a chill through the air. The real danger had arrived, and it was closing in fast. He knew that what came next would test every ounce of his strength, courage, and will to survive. The moment the final rope fell away, the woman's strength gave out completely, and she collapsed forward. The cowboy caught her just in time, lowering her gently as he steadied his breath. Up close, he could feel how weak she was, her body trembling from exhaustion and exposure. The distant howls had grown louder now, sharper, echoing through the darkening valley with chilling clarity. There was no time to rest, no time to think. He glanced around quickly, every instinct warning him that they were no longer alone. The danger he had feared was no longer approaching. It had already arrived, and it was closing in fast. Without hesitation, he tightened his grip and lifted her carefully, carrying her toward his horse. Every movement had to be quick, yet controlled. His horse shifted nervously, sensing the threat in the air, its ears twitching toward the distant sounds. The cowboy placed the woman gently across the saddle, making sure she wouldn't fall. Her head rested weakly against his arm, her breathing shallow but steady. He mounted swiftly behind her, grabbing the reins firmly. The howls now came from multiple directions, surrounding them like a tightening circle. He knew they had only seconds left before the chase would begin. With a sharp pull of the reins, the horse surged forward, breaking into a fast gallop across the uneven ground. The night had fully taken over now, swallowing the land in darkness. Only faint moonlight guided their path, casting long shadows that shifted with every movement. The cowboy leaned forward, shielding the woman as best he could, while keeping control of the horse. Behind them, faint shapes moved in the distance, low, fast, and relentless. The wolves had begun their pursuit, drawn by instinct and hunger, their patience replaced by the thrill of the hunt. The wind rushed past them as the horse pushed harder, its hooves pounding against dirt and stone. The cowboy's heart raced, not from fear alone, but from the pressure of every second slipping away. He could hear the wolves gaining ground, their howls now mixed with the sound of movement through brush and rock. He urged the horse forward, whispering commands, pushing it to its limits. There was no clear path ahead, only instinct guiding him through the darkness. One wrong turn could slow them down, and out here, slowing down meant giving the predators exactly what they wanted. The terrain grew rougher as they rode, forcing the cowboy to adjust constantly. Low branches, uneven ground, and hidden dips threatened to throw them off balance. Still, he pressed on, refusing to stop, refusing to give in. He could feel the woman shifting slightly, her weight unsteady, as she drifted in and out of consciousness. He tightened his hold, making sure she stayed secure. Behind them, the shadows seemed closer now, faster, more confident. The wolves were no longer testing, they were hunting, and the cowboy knew this chase could not last forever. Just as exhaustion began to creep in, something caught his eye ahead, a faint outline against the darkness. At first, it looked like nothing more than a shadow, but as they drew closer, it took shape. A small shelter stood near a cluster of trees, barely visible but unmistakably real. Hope surged through him. It wasn't much, but it was something, a chance to create distance, to buy time. He guided the horse toward it, pushing forward with renewed urgency, knowing that reaching it might be their only chance to survive the night. The horse slowed as they approached, its energy nearly spent. The cowboy quickly dismounted, lifting the woman down with careful urgency. He carried her inside the shelter, laying her gently on the ground. The space was small and worn, but it offered protection from the open night. Without wasting a moment, he moved to gather what little he could find: dry wood, scraps, anything that would burn. His hands worked quickly, striking a flame and building a fire. The first flickers of light pushed back the darkness, creating a fragile barrier between them and the predators outside. The fire grew stronger, its glow filling the shelter with warmth and light. Outside, distant howls continued, but they no longer sounded as close as before. The cowboy remained alert, listening carefully, ready for any sign of danger. Slowly, the woman began to stir, her breathing becoming more steady. Her eyes opened slightly, adjusting to the flickering light. For a brief moment, confusion crossed her face before she looked at him. Their eyes met. Two strangers brought together by survival, bound not by words, but by what they had just endured. Neither of them spoke. There was no need. The silence between them was no longer filled with fear, but with understanding. The cowboy sat nearby, keeping watch as the fire crackled softly. Outside, the night remained dangerous, but inside there was a small sense of safety. The woman's strength would take time to return, and the journey ahead would not be easy. But for now, they had survived. And in that quiet moment, illuminated by the glow of the fire, something unspoken began to form. A fragile trust, born in the face of danger and sealed by the choice to never leave each other behind.